So now with Rashan Gary having finished 3 years here in Green Bay, the question has been recently, are the Packers going to give him a long-term extension? How much would it cost for the Packers to give him a long-term extension? And when could this possibly happen? So when we take a look at last year, just how dominant Rashan Gary was, a amazing year, 81 total pressures in 2021, which was third among every single edge rusher in the NFL. He pressured the QB on 18.4% of snaps, which was first, number one in all of the NFL. That partly had to do with mainly had to do with Zadarius Smith missing so much time from his back injury, which swung the door wide open for Rashan Gary to come in, have a lot more opportunity, and he came in and played at a elite level. And so now, after Rashan Gary finished his third year, the Packers decided to come in, exercise that fifth year option, which will pay him $10.9 million in 2023. So currently, right now, as we're sitting here at the end of June, Rashan Gary is under contract for the next 2 years in Green Bay, 2022 as well as 2023. And if we take a look here, another crazy stat for Rashan Gary from Austin Gale on Twitter. Highest pass rush win rates on 3rd and 4 plus over the last 2 seasons per PFF. Number 1, Rashan Gary, 28%. Number 2, Myles Garrett, 27%. And number 3, Joey Bosa at 25%. So it shows you, the company that Rashan Gary is in among some of the best edge rushers in the entire NFL. And so now when we look at the potential of a contract extension, could it happen before the season starts? It's possible. Maybe the Packers are looking at it and saying, okay, we already know Rashan Gary is a monster. We want to keep him along for the long haul. And if Rashan Gary comes in and does even better this next year, he'll probably make even more money in his contract. And if he were to come in here this year and play similarly to where he played last year, he'd still get a massive contract regardless. So the Packers could do that before, or maybe they do what they did with Jair Alexander, where Jair just got his new extension or his new contract in the past month or so. After 4 years in the league, he was about to enter playing on his 5th year option. The Packers decided to come in, give him that deal. So maybe the Packers give him a deal next offseason instead. So then thinking about this potential extension and how much money he will make, there was a article written by Brad Spielberger of PFF, who's like a cap expert. And here's his prediction on a potential Rashan Gary contract if it were to happen. So it says here, contract projection, 5 years, $130 million, $26 million per year, $45 million total guaranteed. Note, the Packers typically don't guarantee any money outside of signing bonuses for non-quarterbacks. So he expects Rashan Gary to make somewhere around $26 million per year. And I think that is very reasonable for Rashan Gary, because I think when you look at this defense, he is one of the most important, if not the most important player on this defense. You could argue, Jair Alexander, maybe Preston Smith. I would still say Rashan Gary is more impactful than Preston Smith, but, just when we look at his stats and everything. But Jair, the Packers paid Jair as one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and I think that they're going to eventually, whether it's before the season, whether it's during the season, after the season, most likely, the Packers are going to have to pay Rashan Gary as one of the best as well. So it's a pretty nice problem to have so many talented players in your defense that you constantly have to be like, okay, I guess we need to pay this guy millions upon millions and millions of dollars. And I think there's no scenario in my mind where the Packers decide to not pay him and sign him to a long-term extension sometime in the future. I don't think they'll let him walk after his rookie contract. Definitely not. So the Packers should be paying him at some point in the next couple of seasons. And he was actually asked about this recently. Bill Huber of Sports Illustrated wrote an article on Rashan Gary. And in this one excerpt I want to show you guys, Bill Huber asks him, his thoughts on a potential contract extension. And here's what Rashan Gary had to say. To be honest, man, I just try and stay focused and stay where my feet is. That's the Green Bay Packers and trying to build myself up so we can be a Super Bowl caliber team. I leave all that to my people. When it comes to money, that's something I don't worry about. I'm here to play football, and I'm here to be the best player I can for this team. So it looks like Rashan Gary is just focused on what he can do in the field, because he knows if he comes in and he dominates once again, the money's going to take care of itself. His agent is going to help him, get that massive bag, which he's probably going to get regardless with the way he played last season. And I expect him to build upon that coming into his 4th season, another year in this offense, another year playing for the Green Bay Packers. And so when we look at this Packers defense, outside of Preston Smith and Rashan Gary, when we look at the rest of this edge rusher group, there are some question marks there when it comes to the depth behind Rashan Gary and Preston Smith. If we take a look at some of these guys, first off, Tipa Naliai, 2020 undrafted free agent. Last year played 151 snaps, had 6 pressures, 1 sack. He wasn't great. He wasn't amazing. Jonathan Garvin, Packers 2020 7th round pick, had 396 snaps last year, 2 sacks. And then the guy that I'm honestly the most excited about out of these players is Packers 2022 5th round draft pick Kingsley Enagbare from South Carolina. And if we look at 2021 for Kingsley Enagbare, when he was playing in college, he had the 3rd best pass rushing grade out of all edge rushers in college football in 2021. So I'm excited to see what he can do, and hopefully he can come in and become a very solid 3rd option behind both Rashan Gary and Preston Smith. Who knows if he will do it in year 1. I think he'll have the opportunity to do so. We'll have to see if he can, but he's just a strong, powerful guy, and I'm excited to see what he can do there. There's also Randy Ramsey, who did miss 2021 with an injury, so there's some question marks there of can he come in and potentially produce at that level. But luckily, we do have 2 studs on the outside in Rashan Gary and Preston Smith, and I do think those 2 guys are one of the reasons the Packers defense was as successful as they were last year, and why I think they will continue to build upon it coming into 2022, because the Packers are really stacked at pretty much every position on the defense, from edge rusher, interior now with Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, corners, Rasul, Jair, Eric Stokes, and then safeties with Amos back there and Savage as well. The Packers are pretty loaded at every area of the defense, which is very exciting that there's honestly not too many weak spots. Oh, also forgot to mention Devondre Campbell and Devondre Campbell number 2, Quay Walker. So this defense is so loaded, which just makes me excited for what's going to happen this next season when the Packers come in and do what they're going to do. I think it's going to be great. I'm very optimistic and hopeful for what this Packers team is going to do. And I hope they come in and, do what lots of us, I think they can do when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. So overall, we'll see when the Packers decide to give Rashan Gary his contract extension. It's going to happen sometime. Maybe not this offseason. Maybe it will, come along next offseason. It doesn't look like Rashan Gary is one of those players who is going to say, you know what, like, pay me now, or I'm, not going to come in and play. We've seen that happen with a few different players recently. I think Terry McLaurin, wide receiver from the Washington Commanders, recently did that. I'm pretty sure he didn't show up to minicamp, or at least he missed something. And then probably an hour or so before this video, he signed like a 3-year, $70 million deal. Something wild, a lot of money for Terry McLaurin. But Rashan Gary seems to be a player who he's just coming in here. He's continuing to play. But a couple weeks ago, when it was the final week of OTAs, there were pretty much no starters there, but Rashan Gary was one of those players who stuck around and continued to put in that work. And I actually have one quote here I want to read before I finish this video about Rashan Gary and his hopes of getting a Super Bowl ring. So this is from the same Bill Huber article. He says this: "I want to be the best at my position," Gary said. "When you say things like that, that's where I want to be, is be able to be top of the categories and things. But my number one thing is bringing a ring back. So I'm not really into all that, how people are looking at me. I'm into whatever I've got to do for this team so we can bring back the ring." So I think when we see just how badly Rashan Gary just wants to bring a ring back, of course he wants to play at an elite level as an individual, and he's going to make money, a massive amount of money because of his elite play. But he's focused on, what can he do to contribute to this team to allow the Packers to get that Super Bowl that we haven't had in, 10 to 12 years, however long it's been. And so to see him already playing as well as he has, to continue to put in that work, to continue to put in the time, and he's just not settling. He wants to continue to grow, get better and better every single year. It's honestly very inspiring to see just what Rashan Gary is doing, and I'm pumped. I'm excited to see what he's going to do here in the future, and I'm excited to see the day the Packers do come in and say, you know what, Rashan Gary, here's, 120 mil. Like, that has to be an amazing feeling for Rashan Gary when that day comes, just to have all of his hard work, all of his effort pay off for what he's done these few years on his rookie contract. So I'm excited for this next season. If you guys want to stay up to date with all Packers news, Packers updates, feel free to subscribe down below. I'm a huge Packers fan, as you can probably tell from me mainly just talking about the Packers. So if you want to see more of that, feel free to subscribe down below to the channel. And when training camp comes around, I'll be out with all those updates as usual. And I'll try to get out a good amount of videos, maybe daily, if not almost daily, for the rest of this offseason. So stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys next time.